Hello everyone and welcome to today's episode of First Contact. I'm your host Isha Patel, and today we have a very incredible guest, Nick Pope. Some of you will recognize him from the many documentaries and films he's done. He's been very involved in Ancient Aliens and is basically the OG when it comes to anything related to ufology. So Nick, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So I have so many questions for you, and with the time that we have today, my first question that I have to ask you is, the government has been covering up this for a very long time. First of all, do you see this anytime in the near future being disclosed to the level where people can actually take this into their own hands?
Well, I think the question of disclosure, of course, leads to the follow-up question: what is it exactly that we are trying to disclose? And there are various different ideas people have about that. Some people literally think that the US government have crashed spacecraft and extraterrestrial bodies. Others think it's a little bit more nebulous, and sure, there's something unknown in our airspace, but maybe even the government doesn't know. But let's suppose there is that smoking gun. I mean, I think what is undeniable is that we've seen this subject come out of the fringe and into the mainstream in the last few years. And certainly the US Congress is aggressively pushing the government and saying, look, if you do have information, we want to know. So we see this in the Senate and the House. We see it in the Armed Services committees, the intelligence committees, and the oversight committees. We've had multiple UFO-related provisions in the last, I think, 3 National Defense Authorization Acts, and already draft language is being worked up for the 2025 defense bill. So we'll see what happens there. There is a push to disclose, and yes, absolutely. If we disclose or discover, however it unfolds, clearly at that point, it does get into the hands of the people, and rightly so. I mean, look, this will have deep and profound implications for almost every aspect of human society: politics, religion, science, technology, and much more besides. And so considering the societal impact of this is very important. And interestingly, just 3 days ago, it was revealed, we knew that the British government was doing some sort of a study on how this might be announced, whatever form it takes. I think they're dressing it up as, well, what if we find through the James Webb Space Telescope, for example, evidence of a biosignature around an exoplanet. But the fact is that a study is being done on how this would be announced to the people, and what contingency plan we might need for all the things that would come after that. And of course, it's a huge variable. We don't know quite what we're going to get. Is it going to be microbes on Mars, or is it going to be a signal from another civilization, or is it going to be full-on disclosure?
Right. The fact that they're even considering the topic of how are we going to tell the people means that there must be some sort of plan in place to make it happen, right?
Well, you would think so, but I'm not sure there is, because I was the first person to obtain and publish the 1-page document that shows what the study is. Now, this is being led by the Department for Science, Innovation and Technology, because it's a spin-off from space policy. And one of the things they say in that 1-page document, which I've posted on my Twitter/X account, so people can see it there. One of the things it says is we want to reach out to other parts of government and other stakeholders to find out what already exists. So they don't seem to know, maybe because it's classified, what's out there. So as with most studies on just about everything, the first thing you do is find, well, who else has done work on this that will help inform our study? All that's going on right now, and they say they hope to have it done by July, but I believe a public affairs spokesperson said they were in early days, so that might mean it's been delayed somewhat.
So a lot of people have come out recently saying that there are retrieved craft from crashes. What can you tell us about the truth of all the stories that are out there?
Well, David Grush is one of the main whistleblowers who's made those claims. And David Grush absolutely is who he says he is and did what he said he did. He was, and this has been confirmed by the DOD, he was part of the UAP task force, and it was the then director of the UAP task force, Jay Stratton, who tasked David Grush with going around all the different intelligence agencies and other parts of the system. But there are 18 constituent parts, of course, in the intelligence community in the US alone. His job was to go around and find the people who had knowledge on this and interview them. So when David Grush says, I've spoken to 40 people, he's not talking about random chat on the internet or his friends down in the bar. He's talking about what he was tasked to do as part of his official job on the UAP task force. So now he's testified to Congress, and Congress is currently trying to validate those claims. And indeed, of course, David Grush has said that he can only relay some of this to Congress, if he gets his security clearance back, which he doesn't now have. Now he's left the government service, and B, if he can go into a SCIF, so like a secure room, so that no electronic eavesdropping, that sort of thing.
Right.
And of course, he's not the only whistleblower. Others are some have apparently come forward. Some are in the process of coming forward. I think there's a little bit of a debate about whether you would classify some of these people as whistleblowers as opposed to sort of informed insiders who are trying to work within the law by disclosing things that are not classified or that they've been authorized to release. So you get not just David Grush, but people like Luis Elizondo, people like Carl Nell. So quite a few people have spoken out, and more to come.
What does it mean for the public, if it were true, that this is all real?
Well, as I say, I think it would have profound effects on almost every aspect of our lives. There's hardly a part of our lives that wouldn't be touched by this in some way. But again, it goes to it's a difficult question, because it depends, if we get disclosure, it depends what is the story and what is the backstory. If we are being interacted with by what Dave Grush calls a non-human intelligence, well, first of all, who or what are they? Are they biological, or are they AI, machine intelligence? Are they extraterrestrial, or are they something else? Are they time travelers from the future? Are they from another dimension? Or are they some form of life or intelligence that humans at our current level don't have the intellectual capacity to even conceptualize? I mean, rather like, you couldn't explain quantum physics to a chimpanzee. Is it something so above our understanding that we can't just say it's aliens or it's time travelers from the future? So all the kind of questions like, well, how is it going to change people's lives, really depend on what gets revealed, what is interacting with us, and critically, what is its agenda. Mm-hmm. And so without knowing those key pieces of information, although I think intellectually, intuitively, one knows that it will touch every aspect of our lives, we don't quite know how.
Yeah, wonderful. And so, people like Avi Loeb have spent a lot of money building giant telescopes, haven't found anything. And then on the other side, you have thousands upon thousands of experiences who see things, who experience things. Where is the truth in that?
Well, I don't deny people's experiences, but of course what Avi Loeb is doing with the Galileo project, and I mean, so far he's certainly not published anything about anomalous data that's been recovered via Galileo project. But the point about Avi Loeb is he is following the scientific method, which when you have, say, experiences, talking at conferences, they are telling their stories. And like I say, I'm not sitting in judgment on that, but that's not the scientific method. The scientific method involves coming up with a hypothesis, designing an experiment to test it, and then, of course, critically, it must fulfill other parts of the scientific method, like repeatability being a key point. So, I'm not saying one is better than the other, but in terms of, say, what I don't know, people outside of this field would accept as proof, I think they would tend to favor, obviously, Avi Loeb and the scientific method over and above people telling their stories. That said, of course, we should never forget that even in these days of like cameras surveilling us, DNA evidence, genetics, even with all of that, eyewitness testimony, so people's stories, still lies at the heart of the criminal justice system. And people every day are either convicted or acquitted because a jury listens to people's story and then weighs it up. Is it true or not? So I don't think that, although I'm championing the scientific method, I'm certainly not disparaging people relating their experiences.
Yeah, wonderful. And I think that's a very balanced approach. You mentioned that they could be extraterrestrial or from another dimension or even extratemporal, like time travelers. So let's just say that they're more likely to be interdimensional than extraterrestrial, right? Let's just say that that's the truth. What if we don't even have the tools to measure that?
I think it makes it a very one-way street where they have all the power and there's really not much we can do. That said, I think a few years ago, ideas of other dimensions would have been dismissed as science fiction. Now we know that theoretical physicists such as Michio Kaku are not just theorizing it, they are actively investigating whether they can find evidence of these hidden dimensions. And one way they're doing that, of course, is using particle accelerators like the Large Hadron Collider in Europe. Because, of course, if string theory is correct, for it to be correct, for the equations to hang together, one needs the existence of these so-called extra or hidden dimensions. So it may well be that through that we actually are able to shift the balance and do a little bit more. And it's really interesting. People think, wow, ATIP, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, and ORSAP, the associated contract, it was $22 million. Well, the Large Hadron Collider, I think, was something like $7 or $8 billion. So orders of magnitude more. And now they are talking about future particle accelerator, which would be, I think, somewhere between, I don't know what I can't recall the figure, but maybe $16 billion. So again, a lot of people are putting a lot of thought, time, effort, money into these particle accelerators. And one thing that they can perhaps do, as well as argue, as well as uncover evidence of hidden dimensions, is also, and I think this may relate to, of course, James Webb may do this as well, but other things. When we look at the universe, we're seeing about 5% of it. Pretty much 95% of the universe is dark energy and dark matter, about which, frankly, we know somewhere between very little and nothing. And indeed, even in the last few months, there's been a little bit of a buzz in the astronomical, astrophysics, theoretical physics communities that maybe we've got something fundamentally wrong about the universe. Maybe we're going to have to almost rethink everything, and maybe hidden dimensions, dark energy, dark matter might play a part in that or be a part of that.
Yeah, right. I got to ask, in all the research you've done, you've gone and visited a lot of sites, you've spoken to a lot of people. Have you had any personal encounters yourself?
Sadly, I've not. In one sense, as a former government employee who had policy responsibility and investigative responsibility for UAP, maybe in one sense that's best because I can then be a sort of impartial observer rather than someone with a dog in the race, so to speak. So that said, of course, I'd love to have some sort of up close and personal, full on, because then I'd know.
Yeah, I love that. Is there anything else you would like to say to people? A lot of our listeners and viewers, they like the movement, they want to get involved somehow, but maybe they don't have the government experience. Is there something that the average person can do to really push this movement forward?
Lots of things. Firstly, I think there are organizations out there that people can join, like the Mutual UFO Network, MUFON. They have a presence in every state in the US and many different countries all around the world. So you can go to their website, get involved, actually train, if you like, to become one of their accredited field investigators. And there are other groups like that too. Also, and most of them are on, if you join Twitter or X, as it's now known, and kind of start to follow some of the people in this field, it's a very good resource. And you'll find that there are other organizations that are looking at this. The Scientific Coalition for Ufology, the Soul Foundation, a number of different groups. Some of the, Danny Sheehan has the New Paradigm Institute. So there's lots of different organizations. A lot of them stress, for example, the importance of lobbying your congressional representative about this. Some of them even have draft emails that people can just copy and paste that have been thought out to have maximum effect. So there are a number of ways that people can involve, but I would say to people, find the part of this that interests you most and then follow that.
Amazing. Thank you. And for anyone listening to this today, we have a wonderful Galactic community that you can join and learn about how you can be more involved in the movement. Thank you so much, Nick, for joining us here today.
Thank you.